my behaviors are different than they were yesterday. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And I know that if I continue to do that, then I'm going to get towards an outcome that I've never gotten before because my behaviors are different. Welcome to the Ryan Rice Show, where we talk about what we learned yesterday that we can apply today so that we can be better tomorrow. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. What is going on, everyone? I had a conversation earlier this week with someone on my sales team, and it was a very, very good conversation, and I had some good takeaways from it, and I wanted to share some of the conversation with you guys because I think it could be helpful. This person on my sales team has been struggling with getting in his own head a little bit, and it's actually funny because he's a great salesperson. He's very relatable. We get a lot of good feedback. I get a lot of good feedback when I talk to sellers about how they enjoy talking to him, and he's very in service to them. Great personality. And when the conversation doesn't go in a way that he wants, he acknowledges and he pinpointed that it was because he's just getting in his own head. And we talked about that for a second. I just asked, well, like, what is the issue with getting in your own head? And he identified that it was coming from this insecurity that he has about saying the wrong thing and then potentially losing the deal. And he was just very nervous about not saying the right thing, and it was just this insecurity that he had. And I asked him what was driving the insecurity, and he said that the insecurity came from when he was growing up. He got made fun of a lot for, and I'm going to put in air quotes, which you can't see, but for not sounding as smart as the other kids. And combined with the fact that he never really got into school, it was a time in his life that he just he didn't enjoy school. He never really got super into it. And because of his lack of interest, maybe he didn't perform as well as society expects kids to perform. And so there was a chain of events early in his life that led to him, having certain beliefs. And we were having a conversation about just one of the conversations he had with one of his sellers that we listened to this call. And I caught him because he said something and it was super, super subtle. And he said it like subconsciously. And basically what he said is he said something to the effect of like how he didn't have the ability to do something. And he glossed over that and he said it so quickly. But this belief that he had that he couldn't do the thing that we were talking about, which he didn't even realize, he didn't even realize he said it at the time. He was just, maybe I don't have the ability, or he said something to the effect of, I don't have the ability to do that. So then, and then, he went on to the next thing that we were talking about. And what was interesting about that is that belief very much corresponded with these insecurities that he was having. And it was such a small little subconscious thing that he did, but I thought it was incredibly important. So I stopped him and I said, "Did you hear what you just said?" And we broke it down for a moment. We identified that that language that he was using was very much evidence that he had these self-limiting beliefs that he needed to work through. And so we kind of dove into it, and I asked him. And I said, do you think that you're smart? And he said yes, and kind of laughed, and I think in the moment, like he knew what he was supposed to say, and he said it, and I think maybe on the surface even he thought that he was smart, but I didn't believe him based on these insecurities that kept popping up, and based on some of what he told me. And so I asked him what his definition of the word smart is. And he said something to the effect of, well, I guess it's someone who thinks very logically about things. And, he started to go into this definition, and I interrupted him. And I asked him, so if that's the definition of the word smart, is Elon Musk smart? And he laughed and he was like, well, I guess not. And so I said, hey, consider, here is kind of my definition of smart as I think about intelligence, and maybe a definition that you want to consider. And I heard this from someone else, but I define smart as the rate of learning. In other words, how quickly someone learns. If someone learns more quickly, I would define that person as smarter versus someone that doesn't learn as quickly. And when I say learn, in other words, let's say I hold my left hand up and you're in front of me, and I slap you with my right after I hold my left hand up. And then I hold my left hand up again, and then I slap you again. And then I hold my left hand up again, and then I slap you again, and you're not reacting or you're not moving out of the way. I would define that as a low rate of learning. As opposed to, let's say that I hold my left hand up, I slap you with my right hand, and then I hold my left hand up again, and you duck immediately. I would say that is a fast rate of learning. And what was so funny about that is it was just last week, him and I were doing a call review, and or maybe it was a role play. And I literally just gave him this feedback last week, and I said, man, something I love about you, and this is me talking to the person on my sales team, is I said, I love how I give you feedback, and literally almost immediately you react and your behavior changes. And I think that is something that you do that is really, really positive, and it helps you because, we talk about something that you can do better, and then you instantly change your behavior. And so I reminded him that we had that conversation just this past week. And I said, so with this new definition, now how smart do you think you are? And he was like, well, I guess I'm pretty smart. And I was like, well, hell yeah. And we closed the conversation talking about confidence. And I want to go down this path for just a second here. And we talked about how I believe that it's a lot more helpful to say to ourselves, I am confident because, and then we list all of the things that we've done in our past that were evidence and proof of us being confident. And I think that is a lot more helpful strategy than looking in the mirror and shouting an affirmation like I am confident over and over, because I think one is just this false feeling, and we're yelling at ourselves and we're trying to create this feeling like I am confident, we're trying to convince ourselves that we're confident through some sort of affirmation. Real quick, as you guys know, I just recently started this podcast. If you could give it a rating with a quick tap of the thumb, that would mean the world to me, and even more importantly, it could help spread the word to a broader audience, which in turn could help change a life. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. But the other one, when we say, well, I am confident because, and then we think about all of the things that we've done in the past that have been evidence of the character trait of confidence, then, we're reminding ourselves of the behaviors that we have done that are evidence of the thing that we're saying that we are. And so that's just kind of a little thing that I've done in the past. If there is a belief or something that I personally try to work through, going about it in that way has been a lot more helpful for me. So that was the conversation that I had with the person on my sales team. And as I was reflecting on that conversation, I thought it was very productive. I thought it was very good because we found these, little insecurities that he was kind of dealing with, and even in his subconscious language. And there were 3 takeaways that I got out of that conversation. And I think first is how to make comparison healthy. And I think so many times we compare ourselves to where we want to be, and we don't think about where we've just come from. And we think that if we haven't achieved the outcome that we're after, then, we think that we suck, or we think that we're stupid, or something's wrong with us, or whatever the case may be. And I tie that into this conversation because what some of these insecurities that this person on my sales team was thinking about stemmed from the fact that, he hadn't achieved the specific outcome that he was after. And I think that thought alone was feeding into this insecurity. And I think a lot of times what's better to judge instead of comparing, where we are now to where we want to be, we just, we compare, is my current behavior different than the behavior that I was doing before? Because at the end of the day, what is going to get us results that are different than results that we've achieved in the past is going to be nothing more than our behavior. And that means that one way that is going to be indicative of whether or not we are going to achieve something that we have never achieved before is by judging, are the behaviors and the actions that I'm taking right now, are they different than the actions and the behaviors that I was taking yesterday or in whatever period? And so, in this sense, I think comparison can actually be very healthy because as long as we're comparing our current behavior to our past behavior, if there's something that we're trying to change or achieve that we haven't achieved yet, then that little litmus test can be indicative in and of itself if you are going in the direction that you want. And for this person on my sales team, that was very powerful because he was comparing himself to where he wanted to be in the future. And because he wasn't there yet, it was feeding into this insecurity that he had. And then he was getting in his own head. But then as soon as we separated from that, and I said, hey, like, how are your behaviors? What behaviors are you doing right now compared to what you used to be? And then I reminded him that we just talked about how amazing that he was doing because I give him feedback and instantly his behavior changes. It was a complete reframe for him. And so I think that's really important as we're going through something that is difficult or if we're struggling with something. A lot of times all we really need to continue to keep going is just the frame that, hey, my behaviors are different than they were yesterday. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And I know that if I continue to do that, then I'm going to get towards an outcome that I've never gotten before because my behaviors are different. And so that was one takeaway that I thought was really, really good. The second was to just be incredibly conscious of our subconscious language. It reveals beliefs that we've had our entire lives that we may not even realize, right? Like we all have our own stories and our own, every situation that has happened to us as we grow up feeds into these, beliefs a lot of times subconsciously. And then it's our language that really helps identify what those beliefs are. And a lot of time it's our subconscious language, right? It's language that we don't even realize that we're saying it. But then if we're conscious of it, we can be like, wait a second, let me peel back that onion a little bit and analyze what it was that I just said and be like, wow, it was so innocent what I just said, but it revealed this belief that I have. And then, okay, where does that belief come from? Okay, maybe it comes from, whatever it might be in our past. And I think if we have the ability to identify that on our own, then it's something that can just be so powerful, right? In this case, him and I were talking and I was able to help identify it for him. But as I think about that for myself, like the more I can be super, super conscious of my own language, the more I think I can be super clear on what are my actual beliefs about what's going on. And then think about, oh, well, where might those beliefs have come from? And then is it going to be constructive for me to challenge and potentially change those beliefs? And then the third takeaway I had from this conversation was just to be so deliberate about the definition of terms, right? That's something that I have been focusing a lot more on lately, and it's something that's very much helped me. For example, recently my wife and I sat down and we had certain terms that we thought would be helpful in our relationship if we define. And even something as simple as like, I asked her, what is your definition of love? Right? And it sounds cheesy or whatever, but she defined the term and then she asked me the question back and I defined the term. And it was very interesting to hear how we both defined what that term means to us. And I think that's important because, the term love in the dictionary could mean one thing, but everyone has their own definition of it. And so I've just spending a lot more time lately on the true definition of terms and what something means to me, and also understanding what something might mean to the other person. And that's been something that is really, really productive. And I think it's also important as we think about the definition of terms, that the definition that we have is a definition that serves us and those around us and is not something that is feeding into a belief that doesn't serve us. So that was it. Short and sweet. It was a really cool conversation, and I love having these conversations with my team. I thought it was really, really neat. And as I reflected on it, I had these takeaways that I thought were good enough to share with you guys, because I think I had the takeaways for myself and what I was going to take away from the conversation and think about and just apply as I went forward. So I appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you guys got some value out of that. All the love in the world to you guys. And until the next one, I'll see you. Peace.